Come on and dig deep. You can make it. You are so close. And even if I have to pick you up and drag you over the finish line, we are going to wrap up Module 2 together. We are doing it. We're making it across the finish line. All right, this is the 7th and final video. It's called Writing with Intention. I'm going to do my very best to keep it as short and sweet as possible. And oh, hi, I'm Leila Barker, Lucky Break Consulting. This is Brickhouse Branding. You could probably utter those things in your sleep tonight, in your subconscious. You've heard them so very much. Here's what I have on tap for this particular video. We're going to talk about the questions that you should ask yourself before writing any copy. I'm going to explain what should be the focus of every single drop of content that you create. And then I'm going to share some simple strategies for creating marketing copy that resonates with your MVPs. We again have the Module 2 workbook and progress tracker. You should be in the final stretch with those two documents. Also, I have a few more resources that I'm going to share via the Module 2 resource list. Thankfully, no worksheets. 3 cheers for no new worksheets. But before you begin writing, and when I say writing, I mean your about page, your product descriptions, your order confirmation emails, your product catalog, whatever you're going to write for this brand, every single time you begin to write, always ask yourself these questions. How do I want my reader to feel? What do I want my reader to know? And what do I want my reader to do next? I want you to memorize those. Tattoo them somewhere discreetly on your body if need be. And before you sit down to write, every single time, what do I want my reader to feel? What do I want them to know? What do I want them to do next? If you will let every piece of content be shaped by those 3 questions, then if you nail number 1, you're going to know what sort of tone to strike. If you nail number 2, you know what content to cultivate. What are we going to include in this communication? And if you focus on number 3, you're going to have a call to action. You're going to guide your MVP, your person, further down the path towards the goal that you ultimately want. Number 1, number 2, number 3, tattoo them on your booty so you can take them with you everywhere you go. When creating every piece of content for your brand, you must keep the focus on your customers. Your customers, your customers, your customers. Those are your MVPs. You cannot always be writing about yourself for yourself. You are writing about your brand for the sake of your MVPs. This is one of my favorite quotes from all of Brickhouse Branding. And yes, of course, it's from Bernadette Jiwa, except this time it's not her book called The Fortune Cookie Principle. It's from her book called Difference. She says people are very tired of being ignored, of being the 99%, of being managed, used, exploited, homogenized, tricked, controlled, and forgotten. They want to be part of something, to have a story to tell, to have something to believe in. They want, actually no, they expect the people they do business with to understand them and to build around their wants, their needs, and even their unexpressed desires. You have to connect with your people. You have to see things through the lens of your customer, which is why it's so incredibly important that you get down and dirty, get in the mud with that worksheet for Module 1 called Building My MVP Profile. If you did it too shallow, if you didn't dig deep enough, if you ran through that exercise because it was uncomfortable, if you left half the questions blank, then you're not going to be able to tap their psyche and speak to those people effectively. Here's an example. This is my private strategy session. I'm trying to get people to tag me into the ring to hire me for an hour to talk to them about wholesale. I want to give you an example of what I consider to be very effective writing, and I consider it to be very effective. I mean, one, because I wrote it, so I admit that I'm not unbiased, but I do have some objective data. This page converts at a really deliciously high rate. So when the people read it, they very often move to checkout and they hand me a few $100s for an hour of my time. So this has got to be pretty persuasive copy. Here's how it starts. Tired of waking up at 5 a.m. to play Tetris in your trunk, schlepping your products from show to show a few times each month? While standing in your booth, are those awkward small talk conversations you have to make with prospective customers wearing you the hell out? Are you convinced that there must be a better way than plowing every last dollar into inventory, spending weeks to months preparing for a big show, smiling uncomfortably for 2 solid days, and then bringing all of that unsold inventory home again? There is a better way. Wholesale will empower you to scale your company, sleep in on Saturdays, and take back your garage. Why am I sharing this with you? Because I got deep and dirty. I crawled deep into the brain of my customer, my MVP, who is at shows every single weekend and is exhausted. She wants her time back. She wants to not have to drive this cavernous vehicle. She wants to not be schlepping every weekend and making small talk with strangers. I know that because I really get who my people are. So when she reads this copy, hopefully, if she's my MVP, she's literally like nodding her head and looking over her shoulder a little bit and being like, is Layla Barker reading my mail? Like, is she psychic? That feels awfully freaky because it resonates so deeply with her. The sales page continues. I've landed my apothecary products on the shelves of more than 1,300 shops and spas worldwide. And I've had the great pleasure of helping more than 100 creative brands unlock the keys to their wholesale kingdom too. I know wholesale like the back of my hand. It's my favorite jam. Some women delight in the clean lines of a gorgeous stiletto, the crisp air and the golden foliage on a hike up the mountainside with their pup in tow, the freshness of freshly picked basil in their homemade pasta sauce. Me? I delight in dissecting wholesale policies and developing buyer outreach strategy. I savor the clean lines of a well-constructed line sheet and the art of a deliciously designed trade show booth. Yes, I've been to therapy. I'm completely beyond help. If you're interested in building a knock their socks off wholesale program, then you've come to the right place. So in that first section that I shared a moment ago, I communicate that I see her. I know her. I get you. I understand this problem. What you see on your screen right now is me establishing rapport and authority and going, look, I get this. I know how to fix it. This is my jam. This is what I'm passionate about. And I can help you build what? A knock your socks off wholesale program. You are in the right place. It's assuring. I'm giving her a call to action, right? Book this. I'm going to help you build that program. So now I want to work on strengthening your copywriting chops. And this is going to involve undoing a lot of the lessons that you were taught in grammar school, grade school, and high school, right? We're going to work in an opposite direction than all of those long-suffering and faithful English teachers. May they forgive us. Your copy, when you're writing for your marketing, should always be 3 things. It should be clear. That means easy to follow and non-rambling. It should be friendly. It should be infused with warmth and a desire to be helpful. And it should be meaningful. Your MVP should feel like you are all up in their head. So your copy needs to be clear, friendly, and meaningful. Your MVP should lay at the bullseye of every scrap of copy that you write. Whatever you do, do not talk about yourself for yourself. That is not helpful. Your MVP has to be present, represented, and reflected in all of your writing. Here are some tips and strategies to help you implement these big scale plans that I have for you in your copywriting. I want you to always speak to just one person. The spotlight should be focused on the customer rather than on you or your business. The customer is the hero. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in our next module, but the spotlight is the customer, not even you as the brand owner. I want you to speak directly to the reader by using the singular you. So talk as if you're speaking to a good friend over coffee. It will build connection and hasten the development of trust. What I mean by speaking to just one person, you don't say on your website, many of you, all of you, most of you. That makes people feel like they're one in a crowd. It creates an obstacle to intimacy. I don't want you to say hello, everyone, or I created this for you all, right? Again, they're not one of a crowd. You're speaking directly to them. Address them as you. This is a really big one. And it goes back to what Bernadette G. was said earlier about so many of us wanting to appear more professional and more polished than we actually would normally speak to someone, right? So we sort of step it up a notch. But in doing that, it becomes generic or vanilla or full of jargon or really staid. I want you to speak in a conversational tone. Write how you speak. You build rapport and you establish commonality with the reader by making them feel as though you're engaged in a conversation with them. This is, thankfully, not a PhD thesis we're writing. You are absolutely free to ditch the stodgy, formal prose. What you should not abandon are solid rules of punctuation. English teachers the world over rejoice. I want you to hold on to the rules of punctuation because they help people digest information and make sense of things. But you don't have to strike this very formal academic tone, right? We're not writing PhD theses. We are not writing medical papers. This isn't a dissertation. Take it easy, people. Be conversational. I also want you to take some advice that's really going to disgrace your former English teacher. I want you to eschew the traditional rules of writing. Yes, you can end a sentence on a preposition. I know your high school teacher would have stroked out at the very thought of that. I'm giving you permission. You can end a sentence on a preposition. You can use contractions. You can write even in sentence fragments. And yes, you can use slang. One of the highest compliments that people pay me is when they read a book that I've written, they say to me, it sounds just like you. And I'm thinking, it should sound just like me, boo. I wrote it. That's not ghostwriter, that's Leila Barker writing it. But when I give a presentation, people will say, you sound just like you do on your website. That's because I wrote the site. It would be weird if it sounded different, right? So write how you talk. And that, for very many of us, uses slang and sentence fragments and contractions. You're already saying them. Just go ahead and write them. I do want you to be mindful of your adjectives. Too many adjectives makes people feel fluffy. That's where this marketing writing can sound sort of slimy and like a put on. So be very, very mindful of how many adjectives you're using. This is a trick that I do. I write my copy and then I read through it again, highlighting the adjectives. So I literally take a highlighter or the highlight function in Word and highlight every single word that's an adjective. If that page lights up yellow like a monochrome LED Christmas tree, then I know I've got too many adjectives in play. So I rework the copy to reduce the number of adjectives that I've used. Again, I'm not anti-adjective, but sometimes in your right copy, you go into this adjective mode where it's just streams and streams of descriptive words. And that's when people can feel like you're putting them on. So count your adjectives and then look at each one and decide if they're really, really necessary. I also want you to avoid tired and hollow buzzwords. Let's play a little drinking game. I want you to take a shot for every time you have seen these words or phrases used in marketing copy. Amazing, beautiful, unique, original, exclusive, innovative, revolutionary, high quality. Those words are everywhere, and they are tired and hollow at this point. If you are not yet hugging a toilet, then you haven't been counting or you weren't playing the drinking game with me. All right? They're everywhere. Scrutinize your marketing copy for overused and bloated terms which have little meaning and substitute something that's a little bit more personal, a little bit more specific, a little bit more authentic. I also want you to steer clear of SAT words. Avoid the inclusion of acronyms and shorthand. It's wise to be thoughtful of your word choice as well. While it may be really tempting to flash your expansive vocabulary, I'm very proud of it. I can already tell you're really smart, but writing above the grade level of your ideal customer will leave them feeling less than smart. And that's not an experience that people will remember fondly. Don't make people feel stupid. If they have to use a lot of processing power to figure out what you're saying, if they have to crack open a thesaurus or ask somebody what you meant, it makes them feel not smart. So I'm impressed by expansive vocabularies, but we don't need to use all those fancy SAT words. Remember that you're the expert, not your reader, okay? So you have a depth and a knowledge about the subject that your reader probably doesn't have. We don't want to make them feel intimidated by that. Last tip for you, I want you to read your copy out loud. It never fails. No matter how many times I silently read what I have written, I can never quite nail the sentence rhythm or discover the typos until I read my work aloud. So every single thing that I write, I go back and I read it, including every slide in this module presentation. In case you were counting, we're on slide 140. And my husband laughs all the time because I sound like I'm talking to myself, but it's because I'm reading back my work. Reading it aloud is incredibly powerful. Give it a try. The focus that reading aloud will bring to your work is absolutely astounding. And that is not hyperbolic. It's my favorite SAT word. It really is astounding. Let's talk about that Module 2 resource list one more time, just for old time's sake. I know I keep referring to it, but it is literally a gold mine of resources for you. If you feel like your writing chops are anemic, you're in good company this semester, I promise. Either you're a born writer or you're not. And the good news is a not born writer can become a good writer with practice. But you are going to have to study and practice, or you're going to have to pass the baton to a professional. And I'm all for professional copywriters. It's just that they cost money. And most of us can probably do our own copy if we buckle down and work on it long and hard enough. I wouldn't say that about developing your own website or even taking your own photographs, certainly not about making your own logo. So we're probably going to have to tag in pros a little later on. But if you are on a tight budget, I want you to try and copyright for yourself. And the resource list has a collection of books and classes that can really help you focus in on this one area, and in the long term it's going to be a whole hell of a lot cheaper than a professional copywriter. By all means though, if you've got the money, hire it out. Let somebody else work on this piece for you. All right, friend, this is our last dance, our last chance for love here in Module 2. I say we put a period at the end of the sentence. Friend, you have got to be tired. I'm tired of hearing myself talk. Your ears must be tired of listening. But I'm raising a toast to you. I'm also popping the cork on some champagne and drawing you a long hot bath and cutting some delicious dark chocolate into little squares for you right now. But I am celebrating with you because you are putting in the work. It's hard work. It's exhausting work. But I can tell you this work is worth it. You're putting in the work now to build a brand that has tremendous emotional resonance, is tightly niched, is very strategic and targeted. And that work, no matter how long it takes us to get to the end of this process, is going to mean a more profitable, more fulfilling business in the long run. So I don't want you to lose sight of that goal while I absolutely lash you with curriculum and to-do lists. I'm proud of the work that you're putting in. I'm going to take a break next week. We are in implementation week, so there's not going to be a big curriculum release next week. Instead, I want you to marinate on the concepts from modules 1 and 2 and get ready for the first private strategy session where you and I can circle the wagons, get together one-on-one, tackle your list of questions, review your coursework so far, and I am really good at pep talks. If you're feeling tired and need a pep talk, shout at a sister during your private strategy session. I'm happy to deliver one to you. Until then, this class is adjourned. You have finished it, my friend. Enjoy a little bit of downtime after this hard work. I will catch up with you in module number 3. This is Leila Barker signing off for Lucky Break Consulting.